Now, the rest of the story. When Whitcomb Judson died in 1909, he passed from here to hereafter with a less than quiet heart. Unattained success? Oh, scarcely. A prolific inventor, Mr. Judson had patented dozens of useful ideas which had found their way to practical, even popular applications. There were internal combustion engines, variable speed transmissions and clutches for automobiles, a pneumatically powered streetcar system, a ledger full of technological triumphs written in bold black ink, and yet one failure had continued to plague Mr. Judson throughout his otherwise profitable career as a mechanical innovator. An idea nobody wanted. The invention that got away. The so-called clasp locker or unlocker for shoes. Anyway, that was its formal title on Mr. Judson's August 29, 1893 patent number 504038. A clasp locker or unlocker for shoes. And the device proved itself as unattractive as its name. The inventor exhibited it at the Chicago World's Fair that same year, with 21 million gawkers inundating the fairgrounds. The clasp locker or unlocker for shoes ought to have stimulated at least some interest, and yet instead, the wide-eyed masses pressed elbow to elbow to see the world's first electric Ferris wheel, or to tisk-tisk at the coochie-coochie sideshow of a provocative belly dancer named Little Egypt. And thus did Whitcomb Judson's latest invention succumb to its own utter unpretentiousness. Might as well forget it, friends advised. After all, even a great musician hits a clinker once in a while. But the more others tried to make Mr. Judson feel better, the worse he felt. The clasp locker or unlocker for shoes was a good idea, he insisted, and he would spend the remaining 16 years of his life trying to prove it. He thought of new names, a whole slew of them, including the Universal, and the Security, spelled with a capital C, and the Plako, Plako. Well, Mr. Judson was desperate, and he was also eager to improve the design itself, along with the machinery used to mass produce it. And still, after years of fretting and simplifying, the clasp locker or unlocker for shoes was sold with a formidable-looking page of elaborate instructions regarding its otherwise applications and basic operation and routine maintenance. And as I say, Mr. Judson died and was pretty much forgotten. And that is why the little you have heard here is practically all that we know about him. I guess when the world is ready for something, it's ready. You just can't keep folks away then. But until then, you can't even turn their heads. For once upon a time, a successful inventor put his considerable imagination in gear, and he conceived a handy little something, which he first called the clasp locker or unlocker for shoes. Nobody paid attention until many years after the inventor's death, when somebody else got hold of that little doodad and renamed it the zipper. And now you know the rest of the story.
And now the rest of the story. In this episode, Mr. Harvey explained Whitcomb Judson's invention, which we now know as the zipper. Judson's earlier inventions had nothing to do with shoes or fasteners. During his lifetime, Judson received 30 patents, 14 of which were in the field of transportation. Judson's plan was to create a streetcar system which was revolutionary. Streetcars in some U.S. cities were still pulled by horses. Others were powered by overhead electric lines. Judson planned to propel his streetcars pneumatically, by using compressed air. If you've seen a home renovation show, you've probably seen builders using nail guns hooked to air hoses. Those are pneumatic nail guns. This is on the same principle. The benefits were many. It had a low construction cost, used little power to produce the compressed air. Simple to operate, it was durable, the cost of maintenance was low. The streetcars produced no noise, gas, smoke, or anything else which would have been considered disagreeable. That was the plan anyway. The powerhouse, where the compressor was mounted, would be small and inexpensive to build, and it could be located at some distance from the rail line where real estate was less valuable. The streetcars could reach speeds up to 15 miles an hour which was impressive at the time. In November 1889, the newly formed Judson Pneumatic Street Railway Company received permission to construct a single track on Georgia Avenue from Boundary Street to Rock Creek Church Road in Washington, D.C. Once built, the streetcars would be run by the Metropolitan Railway Company. Workers laid a 16-inch diameter pipe several feet underground. Inside the pipe was a huge brass screw which was turned by air propulsion from the power station. The streetcar had a connecting rod which ran down through the slot in the pipe. When the operator wanted to go forward, he moved the lever which caused the connecting rod to grip the screw which propelled the car forward. When the operator disengaged the connecting rod from the connecting screw, the streetcar stopped. Another movement of the lever and the streetcar could travel in reverse at the same speed as it had gone forward. Even before the first pneumatic streetcar moved an inch in Washington, D.C., citizens of Leavenworth, Kansas were eager for Judson's company to build a pneumatic streetcar system in their town. The whole of the citizenry seemed to be on board with the plan, and city planners signed a contract with Judson's company. The contract stipulated that Judson's company would build a compressed air plant, complete and operate 10 miles of pneumatic street railway within the city, and bring to the city 10 manufactories, each employing not less than 25 men, all which was to be completed by the end of 1893. But there were hurdles to overcome before work could begin on the new system in Leavenworth. The initial cost was an estimated $250,000, and property owners had to relinquish the land on which the rails would be laid. Investors flocked to take part, as did the property owners. But by the first week of January 1893, the citizens of Leavenworth expressed their concerns and doubted that the railway would actually be built. Back in Washington, D.C., things weren't going as planned. In January 1893, newspapers reported that, this is a quote, "Since January 1, 1890, the road has been operated by the Metropolitan Railway Company under a verbal lease. The company contracted with the Judson Pneumatic Street Railway Company for a compressed air system. The said system proved a failure." In the report, the railway company reported that they had been given permission to use the overhead electric system to use on trolley cars in place of the pneumatic system. News of the failure of the Judson Pneumatic Street Railway system in Washington, D.C. spread quickly, and Judson's company collapsed. In that same year, though, 1893, Judson received the patent for his clasp locker or unlocker for shoes. According to his patent application, the invention was especially designed for use as a shoe fastener, but is capable of general application wherever clasps consisting of interlocking parts may be applied, as for example, to mail bags, belts, and the closing of seams uniting flexible bodies. "My invention," Judson explained, "relates to clasp lockers or unlockers for automatically engaging or disengaging an entire series of clasps by a single continuous movement." Judson founded the Universal Fastener Company with partners Harry Earl and Lewis Walker and showcased his clasp locker and unlocker at the 1893 Chicago World's Fair. Despite his best efforts, the business struggled to find a market. During World War I, the U.S. Army used Judson's clasp locker and unlocker on clothing and other military gear, but the public was still uninterested in Judson's invention. In July 1923, workmen repairing the tracks of the Washington Railway and Electric Company on Georgia Avenue, Washington, D.C., were, as the newspaper article said, swinging their picks to the tune of ragtime when they struck something harder than dirt. They unearthed pieces of a 16-inch pipe, inside of which a huge brass screw at one time revolved. The younger men were familiar with water and gas pipes, but were puzzled by the tube and its purpose. The company contacted some of their foremen, which the newspaper referred to as pioneer railway men, and learned that the old pipe was a remnant of Judson's pneumatic railway experiment. In that same year, 1923, B.F. Goodrich, the company we associate with tires, sold a wide variety of products, including rain boots. B.F. Goodrich used Judson's invention on the rain boots and called them zips, or zippers, purportedly due to the sound they produce. With a catchy new name, the zipper became a hit, and by the mid-1930s, the fashion industry had accepted and embraced the zipper. French designers raved over the ease, utility, and seamlessness of the zipper. By the 1960s, it was estimated that 7 out of every 10 zippers were made by Judson's company. Whitcomb Judson died of stomach cancer on December 7, 1909. He died thinking that most of his inventions were failures. He did not achieve fame and fortune during his lifetime, but his company, Judson Universal Fastener Company, survived. It was eventually renamed Talon Company, who, for decades, was the largest zipper maker in the world. It is now known as Talon International. Today, the zipper is one of the world's most common and most convenient devices. Around 5 billion, that's billion with a B, zippers are produced each year in varying styles. So the next time you zip up your jacket or zip up your blue jeans, say a little thank you to Whitcomb Judson. He certainly deserves it. I'm Brad Dison. Thanks for watching. And as Paul Harvey would say, good day.